Welcome. In this workshop, we're going to be doing a quick tutorial going over the CalStateApply application for Spring 2027 transfer. So this is the application for students who wish to transfer to a Cal State University, for example, Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach. You'll be using this website, so it's calstate.edu/apply. When you go to the homepage for CalStateApply, you will need to select the correct term to apply to. So we'll be selecting Spring of 2027 and click Apply Now. From there, you're going to either need to sign in if you've already made an account, or you will create an account. So just depending on whether or not you have one, you'll go from there. When you first make the application and log in, there's going to be some preliminary questions under the extended profile. And if you ever need to get back to the extended profile to make edits to this, again, you just click your name and then click extended profile at the top. There is a very important question in here under your educational goal. So for the first part of the question, it's asking what degree, credential program, or certificate you're applying for, and the vast majority of transfer students will just be selecting first bachelor's degree. And then the second question is, which of the following best describes your current educational status? And for most transfer students, you're going to be selecting one of these two options, a second or third option. The second option, transferring from a California community college and earned or planning to earn an associate degree for transfer, is for students who are going to be finishing up an ADT here at SCC. So an associate degree for transfer, also called ADT, also AAT or AST. If you are not sure whether or not you're going to be getting an ADT, before pressing submit on this application, you definitely need to check with the counselor to make sure that you answer this question correctly in the application, because it does impact your transfer, because there are some benefits that come along with being an ADT applicant if you're applying into a similar major, for example, 0.1 GPA bump, and then a guarantee to be able to graduate in 60 units after you transfer. So if you want to be able to get those benefits and you're getting an ADT, we just need to confirm that you're actually going to be doing it. And then if you're not doing an ADT because maybe you just didn't have the classes done, or maybe we don't offer one in your major, then you'll be selecting the second option, having attended or currently attending a community college, basically transferring without an ADT. Now, if you're getting a different type of associate's degree, like an Associate of Arts in Liberal Arts, for example, that is an associate's degree, but it's not an ADT, so you would select this one. So if you're unsure at all on ADT or not ADT, come see a counselor. For those of you who are ADT applicants and you select that option, you're going to be prompted to put in the California Community College that you'll be receiving that degree from, so that's us, and then you'll be selecting your major of that degree. I'd say the most common error that I see with this question is for my business majors, because they don't know whether or not they're doing business admin, kind of 1.0 versus 2.0. So again, check with the counselor. And then I see a lot of errors for students between the child development, early childhood, and elementary teacher education, where students are just selecting the wrong degree. So again, make sure that you're checking with your counselor to know exactly how to answer these questions correctly. If you're going to be getting two associate degree for transfers, you can totally put in both of them by just selecting yes, and you'll be prompted to add the other degree information. The remainder of the questions are pretty self-explanatory. When you're done, you'll press save. And then the other thing that you'll need to do when you first make the application is you'll be prompted to add at least one program to apply to. When you're on the Add a Program section of the application, you can get to it from the tabs across the top of the landing page. My advice is to use the filters tool when you're searching for programs and select the campuses that you're interested in. That way it's not just this huge giant long list of different schools, so you can select the majors you're interested in by first choosing the campuses and then typing in the major, and it'll pop up some options for you. So as you get these options, one thing to also look out for is that some schools will offer programs through their extension. So extension programs tend to be 100% online. They do have a different cost associated with them and sometimes different requirements. So just be careful that you are not accidentally applying to an extension program if that's not what you were trying to do. So that is just one other thing to look out for. And then on the My Application tab, this is where you get to kind of the meat of the application. So there's these 4 different sections: personal information, academic history, supporting information, and program materials. You'll probably spend the most amount of time in the academic history, and that's probably where you'll have the most questions, but we will go quickly through the different sections of the application today. So first, under personal information, a lot of this is questions that here in the Transfer Center, we probably don't know the answer because it's all personal to you, like your contact information, etc. So we can't necessarily tell you what the answer would be, but we can at least give you some guidance on what it's asking. And one question that we do get under the citizenship and residency information is specifically for our undocumented students. You would select none for your citizenship status. And anytime you have any specific questions about anything that you see, you click the Applicant Help Center and there will be tailored information based on the page that you clicked on. So example, if I click on Applicant Help Center on the citizenship and residency information, it's going to default me into their kind of guidance or tips specific to this page of the application. So that's really helpful. Another thing to kind of pay close attention to is for a lot of these questions in this section, some of them are required, some of them are optional. So if you see the red asterisk, you absolutely need to answer that question. And if it doesn't have an asterisk, it is an optional question. The financial and parental information section is another area where we get a good amount of questions. It does have really good helpful advice in the Applicant Help Center, but this information you do need to answer. So if you have any questions that are specific to your situation, feel free to connect with us and we can help guide you on how to correctly put your information into this part of the application. Academic history, there are several tabs within academic history. So you're going to be listing your high schools attended. And in that one, you're going to just be adding your high school. And then under academic information, it's literally just one question of whether or not you completed high school outside of the US. If you say yes, you'll enter additional information. If you say no, then you get to move on. Colleges attended, this is super important. So in the section of colleges attended, you need to list every school that you've taken a class at, even if it was just one class online, even if you've already sent those transcripts to SCC, we need to separately list all colleges that you've attended. Don't forget about dual enrollment, and make sure that you take a look at your classes here at SCC, pull up your unofficial transcript, and check to see where you took the classes at. To your unofficial transcript, first you need to log into your self-service account. Then on the left-hand side, you will choose the graduation cap, which is also called academics, and then you will just scroll down to unofficial transcript and you will double click this button that says degree audit - college credit transcript. If you see another option, just make sure you're choosing the credit option because that's going to have your actual transferable coursework. When you have the transcript downloaded, you will be able to see the different coursework, and there's a header up at the top that says college, and that is where you look to see where the individual courses were taken from. So in this example, they're all at SEC, however, this one class is actually from Santa Ana College, so you'll notice it right there. So on the unofficial transcript, it's really important to look out to see exactly where you took it. This happens a lot where students accidentally leave off Santa Ana College classes because they took their classes online and they just totally forgot or didn't even realize at the time that they were taking a SAT class. That information does need to be reported correctly, so just be super careful. This is one of the top mistakes we see on the application. So you'll list all colleges that you've attended, and then if you're going to be getting a degree from SCC, you will be able to list that in here by selecting yes for this question. You'll put the degree status, so you're either have it awarded, that means it's fully completed and already posted to your transcript, or maybe it's in progress, so that will be like, for example, if you're going to be finishing up the degree this summer, so that would be the type of degree, again, paying close attention to whether it was an associate degree for transfer versus a regular associate of arts, for example, and then what is the major. And then when you'll earn that degree would be, for example, if you're finishing up in summer, that would be August of 2026, and then you'll go ahead and save that information. The type of term semester here at SEC is semester. Your tuition status depends on you, but for most of you, it will be in-state tuition. And then when you attended, that'll be your very first semester, so that'll just be depending on when you started. When you're entering semesters in the CalState application, you'll notice that there's a little bit of difference in the wording. So quick overview of those. Winter, for example, there's nothing on your transcript that'll be labeled winter. Here at SEC, winter is called spring intersession, so anything spring intersession will be winter in the application. Spring is just regular spring. Then there's all these different options for summer, so we don't have a separate summer 1 versus summer 2, so you'll just select summer, and then fall, of course, is just fall. Then if you're still going to be taking classes, you can actually just click this box if you're still attending, and then if you've already wrapped up completing all of your classes, you'll just put the last semester and month that you completed those classes. Once you've finished adding your colleges attended, you'll be able to go down into this college coursework section. Now, this is probably the most time-consuming section of the application because you will be reporting all of the classes that you've taken at all of the schools that you've gone to. You'll also be reporting any planned coursework and in-progress coursework that you have as well. So based on the schools that you entered and the colleges attended, you'll see this option to basically enter the transcripts for those individual schools. So again, pay close attention if a class was taken at SEC versus Santa Ana College, and make sure it goes under the correct school for when you're adding in the individual classes. When you want to edit the transcript, you'll just go ahead and press edit. I have a couple semesters up here just to give you an example of what it looks like, but when you're first getting into here, you're going to have to start out by adding a semester. So you'll pop down and you'll see all those same term names that I discussed in the previous screen. However, you'll also see one more option, which is called interim. So interim refers to classes that are basically in the semester that you're in currently, but the grade has already been posted. For example, maybe it would be it's summertime now and you took a class that already finished up. It was the first half of summer and you have a grade, but then you have another class that you're still taking and you haven't gotten a grade for. Interim can be used to be able to put the class that's already been graded. Because when you're entering in a semester, so say we'll do summer and then we'll do 2026, you have to enter in a completion status. So if you're currently taking summer classes, you put in progress, and then it won't let you put a grade, whereas completed allows and makes you put the grade down. So again, that interim is just used for when you kind of have a mixed status for your classes for a semester, the current semester that you're in right now, where maybe one grade has posted but the other one hasn't yet. So I know that's a little bit funky, but it is really helpful, this interim option, especially if you finished a class at the beginning half of summer and you did really well and you want that class to be factored into your GPA for when you're turning in this application. That can be really beneficial. So anyway, again, term, year, completion status, so either in progress or planned, and then you click add a course. So you'll be typing in the courses, you'll just start to type them in exactly as they are on your transcript. If it's an assist articulated class, basically if it's Cal State transferable and taken at a community college in California, it should automatically pop up. And then the only thing that you need to do is just make sure everything's looking right, make sure the credits match what's on your transcript, and then enter a grade if it's already graded, and then of course if it's in progress planned, then you don't need to enter a grade. If you took a class that's maybe non-transferable, so maybe you took Math 80, you're going to type that in and there's going to be no results found. So you'll just type it in manually and match exactly what is on your transcript. This box right here, for classes that are not transferable, you leave it unchecked. So the only time you uncheck a box is if the class itself was not transfer level. So it's not asking, did you pass the class? Are the credits going to transfer? No, it's just asking, is that course a transfer level course or not? When you're done entering information, you can go ahead and press save. Sometimes you need to kind of click anywhere on the screen for the save button to become blue. It's a little bit funky, but that is the way to do it. So you'll enter in all the classes that you've taken, make sure that it's matching up with your transcripts. Again, double check the credits, double check the grade. This CAS grade, you won't be entering that. You'll just be putting in the grade and then this thing kind of automatically populates. When you're entering in classes, if you've gotten a W, you're going to just put a W as the grade. If you got an EW, an excuse withdrawal, you'll just put an EW. However, if you repeated a class, for example, you got a D the first time that you took the course and it's been repeated, and you see this R notation on your transcript, for that first time when you got the D or the F, you'll put RP instead of the D or the F. But that R notation on the transcript does need to be there in order for you to make the change and put the RP instead of the D or the F. And then for academic renewal, that is a formal process that you would have had to go through with a counselor, and on the transcript it will be noted in the note column as RWO. And if you see that RWO in the grade, you'll put AR for academic renewal instead of the D or the F. So the vast majority of the time you're going to copy your transcript exactly as it is. The two exceptions are for repeats and academic renewals. When you're done adding in your coursework, again, you want to make sure that you do it for both schools. When you're fully done and the bar is green for both of these, you'll click yes that you've completed entering your transcript, and then you'll save it. You have the option to calculate your transfer GPA right here, which is just helpful for kind of seeing, is it matching what's on your transcript? Is it calculating things in the way that you were hoping? And also for just getting a general sense of where your GPA might be. It also shows your units, which is helpful for just seeing if you are at the 60 units as well. Standardized tests, the main thing that students might report in here would be AP or IB exams. So if you took AP classes in high school, took the exam and got a 3 or higher, then you can add the test scores here, along with CLEP or IB if that applies to you. And if you don't have any of that, or you're like, what are you talking about? Then you'll go ahead and click, I'm not adding any standardized tests. Then lastly, in the academic history section is the general education Golden 4 section. So this is actually super important because Golden 4 refers to the minimum general education that every single applicant needs to have to be eligible to transfer to a Cal State. And so they're basically asking you to match your coursework that you entered under the college coursework section to show how you've met the Golden 4. Once you've added a bunch of classes, or all of your classes for that matter, into the college coursework, hopefully it'll auto-populate which class meets each section, and basically you'll just have to click save and continue. But if it doesn't for some reason, then that's a good reason to maybe check in with a counselor to make sure that you do have a class that meets Golden 4, and you can also just click it and find the class down on the drop down that meets that area of the general education. Do not opt out of selecting the Golden 4 because this is like minimum criteria that they're going to be looking at, so you definitely don't want to do that. And then again, save and continue when you're done. So again, academic history is probably where you're going to have the most amount of questions, and we definitely recommend before pressing submit on this application, having someone in the transfer center take a peek at your application, make sure your academic history was reported correctly so we don't have any errors, because once you submit this application, that information does get locked in. Just one more reminder on academic history. I mentioned this before, but you do need to put everything that you've taken. You also put your in-progress classes, and you'll be putting your planned coursework. Now, if you're concerned about your planned coursework because you think that something might change, you need to just report what you anticipate or what you expect you're going to be taking. Okay, so jumping right now into the supporting information tab. So this one is fairly short. If you listed in your extended profile that you are going to be completing an associate degree for transfer, you will have this ADT section, and what you need to enter into here is your SEC student ID number and the anticipated or completion date for your degree. So basically, if you're planning on getting the degree, when is it going to be done? And you can estimate the date. You want to definitely get the month and year right. So for example, if it's a summer completion, that would be August of 2026, whereas fall degree completion would be December of 2026. But also super important just to make sure you get your SEC student ID number in there. And then you can't change this part right here because, again, this is pulling from the extended profile. So if you look at this and realize it's wrong, you will just, again, go to the extended profile to edit it. The next section in here is the Educational Opportunity or EOP program. So this program is for low-income, first-generation, and historically disadvantaged students. So my advice is to definitely click on the EOP admissions site first and read about the eligibility criteria, because it is super specific in terms of eligibility. And if you meet the eligibility, we definitely recommend applying. However, if you don't meet the eligibility, you will just say that you are not going to be applying for EOP. And this program, if you're eligible but you decide not to apply in the application, you won't have an opportunity to apply for this after you've transferred. So it's kind of a now or never, but again, you're either eligible or not. If you do move forward with applying for the program, just keep in mind that you will need to answer some questions, some like written questions, and you will need to provide 2 letters of recommendation. The letters of recommendation are submitted in the application, but all you have to do is put the contact person's name and then their email, and the system will actually send them a login for their own kind of applicant portal. So it's not like you need to attach a copy of the letter in the application itself. You'll just be providing who's going to be providing your letters of recommendation in this part. So that's pretty helpful. Okay, lastly is program materials. So in this section, this is based on the programs that you've selected by adding them to the add program section. So if you've added a program, you'll see it on this list. And some of the schools might just have 1 or 2 questions. Some of them might be a little bit more extensive. So for example, you'll click on a school. This homepage is typically just information, and then the questions will just be a question that you need to ask. Most of them are asking you kind of a housing inquiry of if you plan on living on or off campus. That just helps them kind of gauge the housing needs for their individual school. Once you've answered and saved it, you'll see a green checkbox coming up on here. And then you'll just scroll through all the different programs and make sure you've answered the various ones that you're putting in here. There's going to be some schools that might have additional questions. So beyond questions, like for example, this is a nursing program at San Bernardino. They also have an opportunity for a document upload to provide more information based on their specific program requirements. And they also have a prerequisite matching section. You do need to do your transcript entry section in the academic history first before you can match the prerequisites. And then you will just need to basically match up the classes you've taken to the prerequisites for the program. If you have any questions on this, you can refer to assist.org for clarification on which classes match the prerequisites, and then you can of course always come to the Transfer Center or see a counselor and we can help you out with that as well. Once you've completed all 4 sections, they will be green all the way around, and you'll be able to move forward to the Submit Application section. And in the Submit Application, you'll notice that it doesn't automatically do anything, so you can always kind of go into here. Total fees is just based on how many schools you've selected in the Add Program section. Once you've added your all the information under the Personal Information section, the fee waiver status will pop up here. So once you've added that information, you'll be able to select this to see whether or not you qualify for the fee waiver. If you do qualify for the fee waiver, you're able to get 4 campuses. You can apply to 4 campuses for free, which is fantastic. Otherwise, if you don't qualify for it, you do need to pay per campus. And then once everything is completed, you can see the green bar goes all the way across, and you'll be able to press submit on either the individual programs, or you can all get them all done in one swoop by selecting submit all. Once you've submitted your applications, you'll be able to see the status, application status, so that's always helpful to just double, triple check that you've fully turned it in. And then up here at the top is this associate degree for transfer. So again, those students who are doing an ADT, you'll be able to see the status of your ADT verification. So basically, after you apply, the Cal States will send us a list here at SCC of all the students who put on their application that they're applying with an associate degree for transfer, and they tell us what major you put. And then the thing that you'll need to do is make sure that you have filed a graduation petition, or basically applied to graduate from SCC. We need to have that on file to process your verification, which is basically something we do on the back end, where we send in a separate portal, we say, okay, this student looks like they're on track to get this degree and when they're going to do it, or maybe they're not looking like they're on track, or perhaps it looks like they did the wrong degree, etc. So we have to post a status for your ADT if you list in your extended profile that you're going to be applying with one, because again, you get a 0.1 GPA bump for that. So for similar majors, so they just want to make sure that they are giving that to students who actually look, like they're actually on track for the degree. So that is the ADT verification status, basically within the check status area here. Okay, so that was an overview of your CalStateApply application. Again, we recommend coming into the Transfer Center and having someone take a look at some of the areas just before you turn it in to make sure things are looking right. Make sure that you figure out whether or not you're getting an associate degree for transfer before you turn it in. Don't forget to leave off any coursework from other colleges, coursework that you have planned, AP credit, etc. So just make sure that you're kind of going through and checking off all of the boxes, because once you submit the application, it does lock the information in. If you have any questions, reach out to the Transfer Center at SCC. We're located in the D building, room 104, so D104. You can also contact us via email at transfer_center@sccollege.edu. And we have a ton of information as well on our website, which is sccollege.edu/transfer.